Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and with pranams, thank you very much for joining in for our Krishna book study session. We'll start with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtake Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Pankajanaභaya Namo Pankajamaline Namo Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Pahi Pahi Mahayogin Deva Deva Jagatpate Nanyam Tvadabhayam Pashe Yatra Mrityu Parasparam Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapalakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaura Dushe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Taralaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatrapatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tatsat. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and pranams. So last time we're continuing from the Krishna book. We're talking about Natvevaham Jatunasham Natvam Neme Janadipaha Na Chaiva Na Bhavishyama Sarve Vayam Ataha Param. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is appearing with the living entity as and when the living entity appears in this world, according to one's actions and desires. Right? But the Supreme Personality of Godhead remembers everything, whereas the Jivatmas do not remember anything. Right? So talking about this example of how Krishna and Arjuna incarnated several times, but Arjuna could not remember each of the past incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna. So he was telling Arjuna that you and I come several times. You don't remember because you're a conditioned soul. I remember everything because I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we're going to start with the 8 transcendental qualities of Lord Sri Krishna as described by Prabhupada. Let me quickly share my screen. Let's continue reading. Okay, anyone would like to read? Yes, Karpavali Mataji, go ahead. These are the 8 transcendental qualities from there.
Mataji, Hare Krishna Dandatvam. These are the 8 transcendental qualities of Krishna. He says that Krishna is known as Yogeshwara. He has all the opulences or facilities of mystic powers such as Anima Siddhi, the power to become smaller than the smallest. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that Krishna has entered even within the atom. Antantara Sara Paramamanu Sayantara Sthitam. Similarly, Krishna as Garbhodakshya Vishnu is within the gigantic universe, and he is lying on the causal ocean as Mahavishnu in a body so gigantic that when he exhales, millions and trillions of universe emanate from his body. This is called Mahima Siddhi. Krishna also has the perfection of Lagima. He can become the lightest. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that it is because Krishna enters within this universe and within the atoms that all the planets are floating in the air. This is the explanation of weightlessness. Krishna also has the perfection of prapti. He can get whatever he likes. Similarly, he has the facility of Ista, controlling power. He is called the supreme controller, Parameshwara. In addition, Krishna can bring everyone under his influence. This is called Vasista. In this way, Krishna is endowed with all opulences, transcendental qualities, and mystic powers. So, no ordinary living being can compare to him. Therefore, the Mayavadi's theory that the supersoul and the individual soul are equal is only a misconception. The conclusion is therefore that Krishna is worshipable and all that other living entities are simply his servants. This understanding is called self realization. Any other realization of oneself beyond this relationship of eternal servitorship to Krishna is impelled by Maya. It is said that the last snare of Maya is her dictation to the living entity to try to become equal to the supreme quality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosopher claims to be equal to God, but he cannot reply to the question of why he has fallen into material entanglement. If he is the supreme God, then how is it that he has been overtaken by impious activities and thereby subjected to tribulations of the law of karma? When the Mayavadis are asked about this, they cannot properly answer. The speculation that one is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is another symptom of sinful life. One cannot take to Krishna consciousness unless one is completely freed from all sinful activities. The very act that the Mayavadi claims to be one with the Supreme Lord means that he is not yet freed from the reactions of sinful activities. Srimad Bhagavatam says that such persons are of Abhisuddha Buddhaya, which means that because they falsely think themselves liberated and at the same time think themselves equal with this absolute truth, their intelligence is not purified. The personified Vedas said that if the yogis and the jnanis do not free themselves from the sinful desire, then their particular process of self-realization will never be successful. Dear Lord, said the personified Vedas, continued, if saintly persons do not take care to eradicate completely the roots of the sinful desires, they cannot experience the super soul, although he is sitting side by side with the individual soul. Samadhi or meditation means that one has to find the super soul within himself. One who is not free from sinful reactions cannot see the super soul. If a person has jeweled locket in his necklace but forgets the jewel, it is almost as though he does not possess it. Similarly, if an individual soul meditates but does not actually perceive the presence of the super soul within himself, his meditation is useless. Persons who have taken to the path of self realization must therefore be very careful to avoid contamination by the influence of Maya. Srila Rupa Goswami says that a devotee should be completely free from all sorts of material desires. A devotee should not be affected by the results of karma and jnana. One has to simply understand Krishna and carry out his desires. This is a pure devotional stage. The personified Vedas continued, mystic yogis who still have contaminated desires for sense gratification are never successful in their attempt, nor can they realize the supersoul within the individual self. As such, the so-called yogis and jnanis who are simply wasting their time in different types of sense gratification, either by mental speculation or by exhibition of limited mystic powers, will never be liberated from the conditioned life and will continue to go through repeated births and deaths. For such persons, both this life and the next life are sources of tribulation. Such sinful persons are already suffering tribulation in this life, and because they are not perfect in self realization, they will be plagued with further tribulation in the next life. Despite all endeavors to attain perfection, such yogis contaminated by desires for sense gratification will continue to suffer in this life and the next. Thank you, Mother.
Thank you, Mataji. Tarapana. Very good. So here, a very important point of how the bhaktas are different from the yogis and the jnanis are given here. Right there, we were talking about karma yogi, jnana yogi, ashtanga yogi, and then we also spoke about bhakti yogi. Right. So when we are talking about karma yogi, jnana yogi, ashtanga yogi, what are we talking about? You're talking about somebody who wants to get out of the material suffering. Somebody who wants to escape the material suffering. Somebody wants to attain the liberation platform because he does not want to go through Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Right? It's not that the person has gone beyond Aham Amiti. Right? Whether it is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, it is always about what is in there for me. How can I get delivered? How can I be liberated from the clutches of the Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi? Right? So I am the center of Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi because I want to get the Ashta Siddhis. I want to become smaller than the smallest. I want to become bigger than the biggest. So all of these things are the yogis and the jnanis who want something for them. They don't want to go through the repeated cycle of birth and death. They want to attain a particular level by which they will go back home, back to Godhead. Right? Their attitude is not to do service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but to simply become free from these, from the Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, birth, disease, old age, and death. So they simply want to escape this, right? Just because they simply want to, they find trouble in such engagements because it is not a nice thing to be engaged in this Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi cycle, right? Why? Because one is suffering and one is also experiencing so-called happiness when it is absence of suffering. But both of which are part of this material world, and one has to continuously take another body, again and again to actually continue the process of enjoying and suffering in this material world. So what should one do? One should immediately take up to the process of bhakti yoga. Right? One should simply take over the process of always engaging in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that way, one will be able to attain the highest level of success, beyond which there is nothing more. Yad gatvana nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Once one reaches Goloka Vrindavan Dham, there is nothing else that needs to be actually acquired. And when one reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, like that. Okay, Anusha Mataji, go ahead. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that if sannyasis, persons in the renounced order of life who have left their homes for self-realization, do not engage themselves in the devotional service of the Lord, but become attracted by philanthropic work such as opening educational institutions, hospitals, or even monasteries, churches, or temples of demigods, they find only trouble from such engagements, not only in this life but in the next. Sannyasis who do not take advantage of this life to realize Krishna simply waste their time and energy in activities outside the jurisdiction of the renounced order. A devotee's attempt to engage his energies in such activities as constructing a Vishnu temple, however, is never wasted. Such engagements are called Krishnarte Akila Cheshta, variegated activities performed to please Krishna. A philanthropist opening a school building and a devotee constructing a temple are not on the same level. Although a philanthropist opening an education institution may be pious activity, it comes under the laws of karma, whereas constructing a temple for Vishnu is devotional service. Devotional service is never within the jurisdiction of the law of karma. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sagunan Samatityaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Devotees of the personality of Godhead transcend all the reactions of the three modes of material nature and are situated on the transcendental platform of Brahman realization. The devotees are liberated in both this life and the next. Any work done in this material world for yajna, Vishnu or Krishna is considered to be liberated work. But without connection with Achyuta, the infallible supreme personality of Godhead, there is no possibility of stopping the resultant actions of the law of karma. The life of Krishna consciousness is the life of liberation. The conclusion is that a devotee, by the grace of the Lord, is liberated in both this life and the next, whereas karmis, jnanis, and yogis are never liberated, either in this life or in the next. The personified Vedas continued. Dear Lord, anyone who by your grace has understood the glories of your lotus feet is callous to material happiness and distress. The material pangs are inevitable as long as we exist within the material world. But a devotee does not divert his attention to such actions and reactions, which are results of pious and impious activities. Nor is a devotee very much disturbed or pleased by praise or condemnation from people in general. A devotee is sometimes greatly praised because of his transcendental activities, and sometimes he is criticized even though there is no reason for adverse criticism. The pure devotee, however, is always callous to praise or condemnation by ordinary people. Actually, the devotee's activities are on the transcendental plane. He is not interested in the praise or condemnation of people engaged in material activities. If the devotee can thus maintain his transcendental position, his liberation in this life and the next is guaranteed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee's transcendental position within this material world is maintained in the association of pure devotees simply by hearing the glorious activities enacted by the Lord in different ages and in different incarnations. The Krishna consciousness movement is based on this principle. Srila Narottam Dasa Thakura has sung, my dear Lord, let me be engaged in your transcendental loving service as indicated by the previous acharyas, and let me live in the association of pure devotees. That is my desire, life after life. In other words, a devotee does not much care whether or not he is liberated. He is eager only for devotional service. Devotional service means that one does not do anything independently of the sanction of the acharyas. The action of Krishna consciousness movement are directed by the previous acharyas headed by Srila Rupa Goswami. In the association of devotees, following these principles, a devotee is able to perfectly maintain his transcendental position.
Thank
In
you,
the Bhagavad
Mataji.
Gita, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Nandit Pranam. So here we are talking about Mama Janmani Janmaneshware Bhavatat Bhaktir Ahetuki Tvai. What is the actual desire of a devotee? A devotee does not want to get out of this material world. Devotee does not want freedom from Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi. So what is the desire of a devotee? A desire of a devotee is life after life. May I be eternally engaged in the service of your lotus feet, O Lord Sri Krishna. So independent of any material desires, right? What is it? Anukuliyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Right? Atha Shri Krishna. No. What is that? Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavratam. Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Anya Bilashita Shunyam. Right? Because a devotee does not look for praises when he is doing anything good, or nor does he become depressed when others tease him or when others ridicule him. Why? Because he derives his satisfaction from his connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from the satisfaction that is derived from performing devotional service. So such a person is na shonshati na kankshati. Such a person is neither lamenting for something that is not acquired, nor is he becoming hankering for something that he does not have. He is simply utilizing everything in the service of the Lord, and and he's still not attached. He's yet not attached with anything material, right? And nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yukta vairagya muchyate. So that is the position of a devotee. All right. Anyone else wants to read? You can raise your hands. Let me quickly read. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that a devotee who knows him perfectly is very dear to him. Four kinds of pious activities take to devotional service. If a pious man is in distress, he approaches the Lord for mitigation of his distress. If a pious man is in need of material help, he prays to the Lord for such help. If a pious man is actually inquisitive about the signs of God, he approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Similarly, a pious man who is simply eager to know the signs of Krishna also approaches the Supreme Lord. Out of these four classes of men, the last is praised by Lord Shri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. A person who tries to understand Krishna with full knowledge and devotion by following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, conversion with scientific knowledge of the Supreme Lord is praiseworthy. Such a devotee can understand all the conditions of life, favorable and unfavorable, are created with the supreme will of the Lord. And when he has fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, he does not care whether his condition of life is favorable or unfavorable. A devotee takes even an unfavorable condition to be the special favor of the personality of Godhead. Actually, there are no favorable conditions for a devotee. Knowing that everything is coming by the will of the Lord, he sees every condition as favorable, and in any condition of life, he is simply enthusiastic to discharge his devotional service. This devotional service is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. A devotee is never distressed in reverse conditions of life, nor is he overjoyed in favorable conditions. He is neither lamenting nor is he overjoyed in favorable conditions. The highest stages of devotional service, the devotee is not even concerned with the list of the to-dos and the do-nots. Such a position can be maintained only by following in the footsteps of the acharyas. Because a pure devotee follows in the footsteps of the acharyas, any action he performs to discharge devotional service should be understood to be on the transcendental platform. Lord Krishna therefore instructs us that an acharya is above criticism. A neophyte devotee should not consider himself on the same platform as the acharya. It should be accepted that the acharya is on the same platform as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, neither Krishna nor his representative acharya should be subject to any adverse criticism by the neophyte devotees, right? Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasadanna gati kutopi. Simply by serving, satisfying and pleasing our gurus, whom will we serve, satisfy and please? We will please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna himself with that. Okay, Nagavani Mataji, go ahead, and then Rajneesh Prabhu, and then Rajeshwari Mataji. All right, go ahead. The personified Vedas thus worship. Are you there, Nagavani Mataji? Okay, Rajneesh Prabhu, you there?
Hare
Yes,
Krishna
go ahead.
Mataji, Dandava Pranam. The
Pranam Prabhu, yes.
personified Vedas just worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in different ways, offering worship to the Supreme Lord by praying means remembering His transcendental qualities, pastimes, and activities. But the Lord's pastimes and qualities are unlimited. It is not possible for us to remember all the qualities of the Lord. Therefore, the personified Vedas worshipped to the best of their ability, and at the end they spoke as follows. Dear Lord, although dear Brahma, the predominating deity of the highest planet Brahmaloka, and King Indra, the predominating demigod of the heavenly planets, as well as the predominating deities of such planets as the sun and the moon, are all very confidential directors of this material world. They have very little knowledge about you. Then, what can ordinary human beings and mental speculators know of you? It is not possible for anyone to enumerate the unlimited transcendental qualities of your Lordship. No one, not even the mental speculators and the demigods in higher planetary system, is actually able to estimate the length and breadth of your form and characteristics. We think that even your Lordship does not have complete knowledge of your transcendental qualities. The reason is that you are unlimited. Although it is not benefiting to say that you don't know yourself, it is practical to understand that because you have unlimited qualities and energies, and because your knowledge is also unlimited, there is unlimited competition between your knowledge and your expansion of energy. The idea is that because God and His knowledge are both unlimited, as soon as God is cognizant of some of His energies, He perceives that He has still more energy. In this way, both His energies and His knowledge increase. Because both of them are unlimited and there is no end to the energies and no end to the knowledge and with which to understand the energy. God is undoubtedly omniscient, but the personified Vedas say that even God himself does not know the full extent of his energy. This does not mean that God is not omniscient when an actual fact is unknown to a certain person. To a certain person, it is called ignorance or lack of knowledge. This is not applicable to God, however, because He knows Himself perfectly. But still, as His energies and activities increase, He also increases His knowledge to understand them. Both are increasing unlimitedly, and there is no end to it. In that sense, it can be said that even God Himself does not know the limit of His energies and qualities. How God is unlimited in His expansion of energies and activities can be roughly calculated by any sane and sober living entity. It is said in the Vedic literature that innumerable universes issue forth when Mahavishnu exhales his yoga in his yoga nidra, and that innumerable universes enter his body when he inhales. We have to imagine that these universes, which according to our limited knowledge are expanded unlimitedly, are so great that the gross and subtle ingredients, the five elements of cosmic manifestation, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, along with the total material energy, and false zero, are not only within the universe but cover the universe in 7 layers, each layer 10 times bigger than the previous one. In this way, each and every universe is very securely packed, and there are numberless universes. All these universes float within the innumerable force of the transcendental body of Mahavishnu. It is stated that just as the atoms and particles of dust are floating within the air along with the birds and their number cannot be calculated, so innumerable universes are floating within the poles of transcendental body of the Lord. For this reason, the Vedas say that God is beyond the grasp of our knowledge. Avan Avan Mansa Gochara Gochara
Gochara.
Gochara. To understand the length and breadth of God is beyond the jurisdiction of our mental speculation. Therefore, a person who is actually learned and sane does not claim claim to be God, but tries to understand God, making distinctions between the spirit and matter. By such careful discrimination, one can clearly understand that Supreme Soul is transcendental to both the superior and inferior energies, although he has a direct connection with both. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains that although everything is resting on his energy, he is different or separate from the energy,
Hare
nature,
Krishna.
and
Thank
the
you.
living end. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Parasi Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. So the Lord has many multifold energies, and they work independently. Independently means, they are under the protection, or they are under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it seems like the Lord does not have a hand in it. Right? Why? Because the Lord is not micromanaging, right? The various delegation of responsibilities, the delegation of, or the administrative responsibilities have been given to the various demigods, to the various avatars, right? Whether it's Garbhodakasha Vishnu, Karnadakasha Vishnu, Shirodakasha Vishnu, whether it is the various, Matsya Kurma, Varaha, Narasimha, Vamana, Parashurama, Rama, Balarama, Buddha, and Kalki, whatever are the avatars, right? They've been empowered, and even the demigods like Shiva, Brahma, like we have Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Agni, and all the devatas also. They've been empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everything happens under the supervision of the Lord, but everything seems to be happening on their own. Maya adhikshena prakriti suetesa characharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. Right? And then there are so many verses which talks about the Lord being in control of everything, yet the Lord does not personally engage himself in any of these activities. Right? Maya adhikshena prakriti. The prakriti is running under my direction. Right? And then what is that? Sutre gani mani iva. Right? Krishna also tells in Bhagavad Gita that everything is, just like pearls are strung on a thread, right? No one sees a thread, but if not for the thread, the pearls will all fall down, isn't it? They will not form that beautiful pattern of the necklace, whatever it is, because of the thread it is done. So similarly, the Lord is there as an integral part of everything that is happening in this world. At the same time, the Lord is not performing any activity for the material world. Everything is happening by the energy of the Lord, but the Lord is not personally involved in any one of them. So this is the inconceivable nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like that. Okay, let's move ahead. Who's reading next? Okay, Rajeshwari Rajiv Mataji, go ahead. Nature and the living entities.
Nature and the living entities. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Sorry, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Nature and the living entities are sometimes designed as a Prakriti and Purusha, respectively. The whole cosmic manifestation in an amalgamation of Prakriti and Purusha. Nature is the ingredient curse and the living entities are the effective curse. These two curses combined together and the effect in this cosmic manifestation. When one is fortunate enough to come to the right conclusion about this cosmic manifestation and everything going on within it, he knows it to be cursed directly and indirectly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. In the conclude in the Brahmasmrita, therefore, Ishvara Paramahamsa Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anandari Ananda Govinda Sarva Karna Karmanam. After such deliberation and consideration, when one has attained the perfection of the knowledge, one comes to the conclusion of the Krishna or God is the original curse of all curses. Instead of speculating about the measurement of God, whether he is so long or so wide, a falsely philosophical one should come to the conclusion of the Brahmasmrita. God or Krishna or a God is a Sarvakarmana Sarvakarana Karmana. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. The curse of the all curses. That is the perfection of the knowledge. Thus, the Veda Sutra or the prayers offered by the persified Vedas to the Garbhodaya Kashaya Vishnu were first narrated the disciplined session by the Sadananda to his brothers, all of whom were born of Brahma at the beginning of the universe. The four Kumaras were the firstborn sons of Brahma. Therefore, they are known as pure Jivita, Pravajivita. Pravajivita. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the Parambara Sista or the discipline section begins with the Krishna himself. Similarly, here in the prayers of the Persified Vedas, it is to be understood that the Parambara system begins with the personality of Godhead Narayana Rishi. We should remember that this Veda Sutra is narrated by Kumara Sadananda, and the narration is repeated by Narayana Rishi in the Badrika Ashramam. Narayana Rishi is the incarnation of Krishna for showing us the path of the self-realization by understanding severe austerities. In this age, Lord Chaitanya demonstrates the path of the pure devotional service by putting himself in the role of pure devotee. Similarly, in the past, Lord Narayana Rishi was an incarnation of Krishna who performed several austerities in the Himalayas ranges. Sri Narada Muni was hearing from him. So, in the statement given by the Narada Rishi is the Narayana Rishi to the Narada Muni has narrated by Kumara Sadananda in the form of the Veda Sutra. It is understood that God is the one supreme and all others are his servant. In this Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated, Eklevi Ishwara Krishna. Krishna is the only supreme God. Asra Sambradaya. All others are his servant. Yahri Yachana
Say Taiche
Hare
Kare.
She Chaite E Kare Nityara. The Supreme Lord has he desired is engaging all the living entities in different activities, and thus they exhibit their different talents and tendencies. The Veda Sutras is the original instructions regarding the relationship existing between the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The highest platform of this realization for the living entity is the attainment of devotional life. One cannot be engaged in devotional life or Krishna consciousness unless one is fully free from the material contamination. Narayana Rishi informed Narada Muni that the essence of all the Vedas and the Vedic scriptures, namely the four Vedas and Upanishad and Puranas and the Veda Sutra, is to render transcendental loving service to the Lord. In this connection, Narayana Rishi has used one particular word, rasa. In devotional service, this rasa is a medium or basic principle for the exchange of dealing between the Lord and the living entity. Rasa is also described in the Vedas. Raso vaya cha. The Supreme Lord is the server of all pleasure. All the Vedic scriptures, including the Puranas and the Vedas and Upanishad and the Veda Sutra, teaching the living entities how to attain the stage of rasa. Bhagavatam also says that the statement in the Mahapurana, Srimad Bhagavatam, continues the essence rasa of all Vedic literature, Nigama Kalpa Taro Galitam Palamham. The Bhagavatam is the essence of the repeat fruit of tree of the Vedic literature. We understand that which the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead there issued forth of the four Vedas, namely the Rig Veda, Yaju Veda, Sama Veda, Atharvana Veda. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, go
And
ahead.
also the historic like the Mahabharata and all the Puranas, which are considered to be the history of the world. The Vedic historic like the Puranas and Mahabharatas are called the fifth Vedas. The 28th verse of the Veda Sutra are to be considered the essence of all Vedic knowledge. The four Kumaras and all others authorized Sikhs knows perfectly that devotional service is Krishna consciousness is the essence of all Vedic literature, and they preach this on different planets, traveling in the outer space. It is stated herein that such sage, including Narada Muni, hardly ever travel on land. They perpetually travel in space. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. So, Vedic survey, Rahameva Vedyo, right? Krishna himself tells in Bhagavad Gita that from all the Vedic scriptures, I am to be known. I am the essence of all the Vedic knowledge. And that's exactly what the Veda Stuti, right? Veda Stuti is the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the Vedic literatures, and who's doing it on behalf of the Vedas. It is Sanandana, right? We saw Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar. So the third person here, who's Sanandana, is actually doing the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, representing the Vedic Stutis, right? And now there is glorification of Narada Muni. Why? Because Narada Muni and the Kumaras, right, they themselves are traveling across all the worlds. And we all know that Narada Muni is a transcendental spaceman, right? So whether or not in this material world or in the heavenly planets or wherever it may be, right? Sometimes even Bhrigu Muni wanted to understand, right, who is the supreme, whether it is Vishnu, Shiva, or Brahma. So in that way, various things when they are happening across the worlds, right? Narada Muni is called upon. Narada Muni is the person who goes and tests everyone, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to find out who is the most supreme, whether it is Shiva, Brahma, or Lord Vishnu, like that, right? So the Narada Muni is a person who can travel across space. He can go to the Vaikuntha planets, he can go to the demigods planets, he can come to the earthly planets, and wherever somebody is in need, who is the person who's helping? It's Narada Muni, right? Narada Muni is ever eternally available for all of the people who have the determination and the conviction to understand who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and reawaken one's loving affection or reawakening one's love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like that. Okay. Sages like Narada and the Kumaras travel throughout the universe to educate the conditioned souls. Their business in the world is not of sense gratification, but of reinstating themselves in their original position of devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, Sridhar Prabhu, continue. It is stated in several places.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, it is stated in several places.
It is stated in several places that the living entities are like sparks of the fire, and the Supreme Personality of the Godhead is like the fire itself. If the sparks somehow or other fall out of the fire, they lost their natural illumination. Thus, it ascertained that the living entities come into this material world exactly as spark falls from the great fire. The living entity wants to imitate Krishna and tries to lord it over material nature in order to enjoy sense gratification. Thus, he forgot his original position and his illuminating power. His spiritual identity is extinguished. However, a living entity takes to Krishna conscious. He is reinstated in his original position. The priest is process of devotional service, sages and saints like Narada and the Kumaras travel all over the universe, educating people and increasing their disciplines. Their aim is that all the conditioned soul may be educated to revive their original consciousness of our Krishna consciousness and thus gain the relief from the miserable condition of material life. Sri Narada Muni is Nasitika Brahmachari, Naisikta Brahmachari. There are 4 types of brahmacharis. The first one is called Savitra, which refers the brahmacharis who is after the initiation and scared thread ceremony must observe at least 3 days of celibacy. The next is called Prajapatya, which refers to the brahmachari who strictly observe the celibacy for at least 1 year after initiation. The next is called Brahmachari, which refers to the brahmachari who observe the celibacy from the time of initiation up to the time of completion of his study in the Vedic literature. The next stage is called Naisikta, which refers to the brahmachari who is the celibate throughout his whole life. Out of this, first 3 are Upakruvana, which means brahmachari can marry later after brahmachari period is over. The Nishikesha brahmachari, however, is completely reluctant to have any sex life. Therefore, The Kumaras and Narada are known as Nashikta Brahmachari. Such Brahmacharis are called Viravrita because they vow to celibacy is the erotic as a vow of Kshatriyas. The Brahmachari system of life is especially advantageous in that increase the power of memory and determination. It is specifically mentioned in this connection that because of Narada was the Nishikesha Brahmachari, he could remember whatever he heard from his spiritual master and would never forget it. One who can remember everything perpetually is called Shriti Dharma. The Shriti Dharma Brahmachari can repeat verbatim or all that he has heard, which notes that without reference of books. The great sage of Narna has this qualification and therefore have taken the instruction from the Narayan Rishi, Narayan Rishi, who is engaged in propagating the philosophy of devotional service all over the world. Because such great sages can remember everything, they are thoughtful, self-realized, and completely fixed the service of Lord. Thus, the great Narada, after hearing from his spiritual master Narayan Rishi, became completely realized. He became established in the truth, and he became so happy, and he offered prayers to Narayan Rishi. Narada Muni addressed Narayan Rishi as the incarnation of Krishna, and specifically addressed him as the supreme well-wisher of the conditioned soul. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna descends its every millennium just to give the protection to his devotees and annihilate the non-devotees. Narayan Rishi, being an incarnation of Krishna, is also addressed as a well-wisher of the conditioned soul. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, everyone should know that there is no well-wisher like Krishna. Everyone should understand that Krishna is the supreme well-wisher of everyone and should take shelter of him. In this way, one can become completely confident and satisfied, knowing that he has become who is able to give him all protection. Krishna himself is his incarnation and plenary explanation of his supreme well-wishers in this conditioned soul. But Krishna is well-wisher even for the demands, for he gave salvation of all the demands who came to kill him Vrindavana. Therefore, Krishna's welfare activities are absolute. For whether he annihilates a demon or gives the protection to the devotee, the result of his devotees is one and the same. It is said that demon Pudana was elevated to the same position as that Krishna's mother. When Krishna kills demon, the demon is supremely benefited as much as the pure devotee is benefited by always being protected by the Lord. Narada Muni, after offering the respect to Narayan Rishi, his spiritual master went to the ashrama of Vedavyasa. His disciple being properly received by the Vasudeva in his ashrama and seated very comfortably. Narada Muni narrated the entire story of what he had heard from Narayan Rishi. In this way, Sukdev Goswami informed Maharaja Parishit goals in the Vedas. The supreme goal of life is to achieve the transcendental blessings of Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become engaged in the loving service of God. One should follow in the footsteps of Sukdev Goswami and all other Vaishnavas in the discipline succession and should be respectful obeisance unto the Lord Krishna. The Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Hare, the four sects of Vaishnava disciple succession, namely the Madhava Sampradaya, the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, and the Nivarka Sampradaya, in pursuit of the Vedic conclusion, agree that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. The Vedic literature are divided into two parts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Right, Vedeshu Sarvai Rahameva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Veda Videva Chaham. So again and again, why is the same thing reiterated? The same thing is reiterated. So we understand our position as a servant of the Lord. We understand that the goal of studying the Vedic scriptures, the goal of life is to achieve the transcendental blessings of the Supreme Lord. And how can that be achieved? And what is stated in all the four bona fide paramparas, in Ramanuja Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva, Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, or whether it is Rudra Sampradaya or whether it is Kumara Sampradaya, they're all saying the same thing. that we need to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we surrender unto the Lord, then we will become recipients of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like that. Okay, there are about 2-3 paragraphs more. Let's try to complete this today. Who would like to read? Who's reading? Okay. The Vedic literatures happened here. Okay. Okay, Anusha Mataji and then Karpagoli Mataji can read. About 2-3 paragraphs are left. We'll complete this. Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji Dhanavad Pranam Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Vedic literatures are divided into two parts, the Shrutis and Smritis. The Shrutis are the four Vedas, Rig, Sama, Atharva and Yajur, and the Upanishads and the Smritis are the Puranas and Itihasas like Mahabharata, which includes the Bhagavad Gita. The conclusion of all these is that one should know Shri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Paramapurusha or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose superintendence material nature works. For creation, maintenance, and annihilation, so the Supreme Lord incarnates into three: Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, after manifesting the material cosmos. All of these take charge of the three qualities of material nature, but the ultimate direction is in the hand of Lord Vishnu. The complete activities of material nature under the three modes are conducted under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dyakshena, and in the Vedas, Sa Aikshatha. The atheistic Shankite philosophers will, of course, offer their arguments that the material cosmic manifestation is due to Prakriti and Purusha, material nature and the living entity, or the material cause and the effective cause. But Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is cause of both the material and the effective causes. Prakriti and Purusha are not the ultimate cause. Superficially, it appears that a child is born due to the combination of father and mother, but the ultimate cause of both the father and the mother is Krishna. He is therefore the original cause or the cause of all causes, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Both the Supreme Lord and the living entities enter into material nature. The Supreme Lord Krishna, by one of his plenary expansions, manifests as Karanodakashayi Mahavishnu, the gigantic Vishnu form lying in the casual ocean. Then, from that gigantic form of Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu expands and enters into every universe. From him, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva expand. Vishnu as Kshirodakashayi enters into the hearts of all living entities as well as into all material elements, including the atom. The Brahma Samhita says, Andatharastha Paramanu Chayantrastha. The Lord is within this universe and also within every atom. The living entity has a small material body taken in various species and forms, and similarly, the whole universe is but the material body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This body is described in the Shastras as Virat Rupa. As the individual living entity maintains his particular body, the Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains the whole cosmic creation entering within it. As soon as the individual living entity leaves the material body is immediately annihilated. And similarly, as soon as Lord Vishnu leaves the cosmic manifestation, everything is annihilated. Therefore, only when the individual living entity surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is his liberation from material existence possible. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Mameva ye prapantyate mayametam tarantite. Surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and nothing else is therefore the cause of liberation. How the living entity becomes liberated from the modes of material nature after surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is illustrated by the example of a sleeping man within a room. When a man is sleeping, everyone sees that he is present within the room. But actually, the man himself is not within that body. For while sleeping, a man forgets his bodily existence, although others may see that his body is present. Similarly, a liberated person engaged in devotional service to the Lord may be seen by others to be engaged in household duties of the material world. But since his consciousness is fixed in Krishna, he does not live within this world. His engagements are different, exactly as the sleeping man's engagements are different from his bodily engagements. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee engaged full time in the transcendental loving service of the Lord has already surpassed the influence of the three modes of material nature. He is already situated on the Brahman platform and is in the transcendental realm, although he appears to be living within this body or within this material world. Can I go
Thank
ahead?
you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. So, a devotee engaged full time in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, right? Daivi Hayesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. So, Krishna is telling, how can one surpass the influence of the three modes of material nature? One can surpass the effects of the three modes of material nature simply by surrendering under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Okay. So, I'm seeing Nagavani Mataji's hand up. Let's see if she's able to read. Otherwise, I'll just come back to Karpagoli Mataji. Yeah. Nagavani Mataji, are you able to unmute yourself? In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare
Dandavat,
Krishna.
go ahead.
धन्यवाद सॉरी मैं जी वो टाइम में अनम्यूट करना नहीं हो रहा था मेरे को इधर से इन दिस कनेक्शन Srila Rupa Goswami states in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that the person whose only desire is to serve Supreme Personality of Godhead may be what is this may be situated in any conditions in the material world, but he is to be understood as understood as Jivan Mukta. That is to say, it is to be considered liberated while living within the body of the material world. The conclusion, therefore, is that a person fully engaged in Krishna consciousness is a liberated person. Such a person actually has nothing to do with his material body or the material world. Those who are not in Krishna consciousness are called karmis and what is that, Mataji? Karmis and yagnis, and they pardon?
The bodily and mental platforms. All right, I'll just complete it,
the
Mataji.
bodily and material platform, and thus are not liberated. This situation is called what is this, Mataji?
Nirasta Yoni. Okay, no problem. Kaivalya Nirasta Yoni. But a person situated on the transcendental platform is freed from the repetition of birth and death. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter. Simply by knowing the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, one becomes free from the repetitions of birth and death. And after quitting his present body, he goes back home, back to Godhead. This is the conclusion of all the Vedas. Thus, after understanding the prayers offered by the personified Vedas, one should surrender under the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 87th chapter of Krishna, prayers by the personified Vedas. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Let Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, one who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not at the end of his life, does not come back to this material world, but will attain my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So that particular path is open to all of us, right? If we are simply engaging in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we also have the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead, to that spiritual world, right? Or be situated in this material world where we would have awakened our love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So with this, this entire chapter is complete. The prayers with the personified Vedas, Sanandana, speaking the glories of Lord Sri Krishna, representing the Vedas, right? So in this way, the chapter ends. And then tomorrow we'll start off with chapter number 88 with the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. And 6th April is Rama Navami. So we're preparing our consciousness for the most auspicious occasion of Rama Navami. Let's quickly do Harinam Sankirtan. We'll end our session. Namma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी असत्यादिशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानन्दा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीमदादि गौरा भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे जय गौरानी जय 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 जगन्नाथ जय जय बालाजी जय जय सुभद्रा जय जय सुदर्शन जय बाल गोपाल जय जय सुदर्शन जय बाल गोपाल जय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री गुरुदेव की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णवा वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्णा। कर्पगोली माता जी थैंक यू। विजयलक्ष्मी प्रिया माता जी। राज नंदिनी correct? Yeah, thank you for joining in. Hare Krishna, Sridhar Prabhu, our Rajeshwari, Mataji, Harjeet, Mataji, our Namesh Prabhu, Anusha, Mataji, Pranab Prabhu, all our kids have joined the evening sessions. Maybe we should have in the evening now. Rajneesh Prabhu, Sarojini Mataji is our Sarva Gopeshwari Mataji and Nagavani Mataji. Thank you very much for joining in. Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद श्री गुरुदेव की जय। इताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल। So thank you very much, devotees. We'll meet tomorrow morning 5 o'clock for the Brahma Muhurta chanting session, and then we'll meet tomorrow. What time we'll meet? Probably we'll have it in the afternoon tomorrow or in the evening. I will mention in the group. So thank you very much for joining in. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much.